So welcome, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. The items on the agenda begin with matter AO 2023-002, requested advisory opinion. The opinion requester is city employee Dale Morgan. He has waived confidentiality, and so I think that we're all familiar with what he's written. Mr. Morgan is here, and we've read what is in the request, and I think maybe if you'd like to come forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Sure. I think I get an understanding of what it is you're asking about, and based on what I read, I've got a few questions
Yes,
to
sir.
ask. If it might be the most efficient way to move forward for you to just give a brief statement about what it is you plan to do that adds anything to what you've said here, if you have anything to say, and then we'll follow up with. I'm sure we've got just some various questions to clear things up.
Yes. So I do a lot of work with the city. I've been doing some volunteer work. I'm actually on the chair, the vice chair for the Board for Partners for Youth. But I've done a lot of volunteer work with the One Lexington program and Divine Karama and its violence prevention initiative. So over the past 2 or 3 years, I've been facilitating financial literacy workshops to those kids in that program. So this past year, I wanted, in an effort to help scale my company, me and Divine had got into some conversations about possibly paying me for those workshops, as opposed in the past I've just using work time and went out and volunteered for those workshops. But now I'm asking to use vacation time and the leave policies, and I will go out and facilitate these workshops through my company and get paid as well.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
I'll start out with a couple of questions that I have. One
Okay.
is, you're an employee of LFUCG?
Yes, sir.
And what is it that you do in that role?
I work in accounting and finance.
Okay, and is that I'm unfortunately unfamiliar, the general accounting and finance department for the city?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This work that you have been doing with One Lexington and Mr. Karama, is that so far? I think you said you've been doing that on a volunteer basis, and
Yes, sir.
and in your off time, and
Right.
Do you have? You're not. Are you assigned by the city to do that?
No.
Or, okay.
No.
And do you?
I have a company that I specialize in financial literacy education.
And you do that work through that company?
Through that company, yes.
And that's Foundation 47?
Yes, sir.
Is that a profit or a nonprofit
It's a
entity?
for-profit LLC.
For-profit
Yeah.
Kentucky
Yes.
LLC?
Yes, sir.
And you get paid for that work by other people?
Yes, sir.
That you do it for?
Yes, sir.
In your off time?
Yes, sir.
And do you have a website or anything like that for
Yes, sir,
that
I do.
company? I haven't looked at it. Do you advertise your position with the city, or that you're you have a finance job or anything with that?
I keep that separate from my company, separate from the city's two separate entities. So I don't advertise. I don't mention anything about being a city employee.
I see. You said you talked with Mr. Karama already about the possibility of converting this to a pay thing. He would be, or has he expressed willingness to pay you out of the One Lexington fund, or how would that work?
So last week I actually already did a presentation. We had already agreed upon invoice and pricing for that workshop. it was brought to my attention that I should possibly seek an ethics opinion
Okay.
moving forward. But we have already agreed for that.
Have you been paid already?
No, I
or-
haven't been paid anything.
Okay.
Can you help me out? Who is Mr. Karama? I'm sorry.
He's the director of One Lexington out of the mayor's office.
Okay. And is there any overlap in terms of Mr. Karama's office and your division, finance and accounting, that you work for?
No, sir.
There's not? Okay.
No.
I'm sorry, Carrie.
No. Go
And
ahead.
this opinion would be, I'm asking for going forward in the future for LFCUG and any departments and affiliates that they have as well, because a lot of people request my services, and if this ever was to come up in the future.
And do you have any other employee? You mentioned in here there's another LFUCG employee that works with you.
Yes, Mr. Eric Martinez.
Is he a part owner of this?
No, he's basically a subcontractor. He works on 1099 schedule.
So you pay him, your entity pays him for the work
For
you're
what he does.
already doing?
Yeah. So when we have workshops, if he participates in those workshops with me, facilitates them, or he goes out and facilitates them on my behalf, I pay him.
What's his role with the city? What's his
He works in
job?
the accounting department. He's an accountant.
Okay.
And he's an accountant in your department, the finance department
Yeah.
at the city,
So I work in the finance department. He works in the accounting
and
department.
accounting, so that's separate.
It's two separate. Two
Okay.
separate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey Dale, can
Hey.
you, for the commission's benefit, explain what you do for the Department of Finance?
For the Department of Finance, I handle some general accounting, some general finance duties. I pay some bills, pay invoices. I do some debt service management. I do some work with the Jobs Fund, economic development. I just help out any way I can. We also have some overlapping responsibilities that I help out in the accounting department, although I'm not of the accounting department, but we also help out in there as well.
And what's your role in Department of Finance? I think somebody mentioned this, but just to make sure we understand, since you explained further what exactly you do in finance, would it involve paying? You mentioned paying bills. Would it involve paying the bill that you're getting receiving?
No,
funds
that would
for?
no, that wouldn't have anything to do with that.
Okay, this question actually may be better suited for Evan. Can you advise in terms of the, I guess, selection process for an entity like Mr. Morgan's, like the Foundation 47? Is that something that, like, if any city department or any city board or whatever wanted to perform some type of financial literacy seminar, is that something that would have to be put to open contract or open solicitation for any possible either person or entity to provide those services?
I think generally for a lot of our contracts, it's based on the amount of the contract. So for over a certain amount, it would, and I think there's even exceptions for some professional services. So not necessarily, unless they're very expensive.
Okay, and so to your knowledge, the type of services that Mr. Morgan's company would be providing in circumstances like what he's described would not be subject to any sort of, I guess, open bidding process or open?
It could definitely. I mean, it could definitely be in certain circumstances, just because the division or department might have it go to bid optionally, but not to my knowledge, and I don't know. I'm not sure if you have any knowledge of. Does Divine? Does he? There's no RFP out for
No,
it, right?
no. So the time that my services have been requested, so I did a lunch and learn right here in this room back in February, and I taught some financial literacy to city employees. And HR Alicia Smith actually just reached out to me and said, she'd heard about what my company does. Could I come and volunteer and do the lunch and learn? And I came in and did it. So that's usually how people contact me. It's not an RFP or anything. It's just I get a phone call or they contact me through my website, and then we sit down.
And you mentioned you've already negotiated once with him about a presentation, and that one in particular wasn't bid beforehand, right?
No, and I've actually already performed it.
Can you tell us the amount, or is that like private?
No, it was just $500.
Okay.
And as far as your company goes, do you do any sort of financial advising for just individuals?
Yes, so a lot of times when I perform these workshops, a lot of people want to follow up and they want to meet one-on-one. And I actually do sit down and we schedule a time and we figure out whatever specifically it is that they need help with. I mean, sometimes it ranges from budget, ways to improve their credit score and things of that nature.
And do those clients pay you for that service?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you're doing a presentation, let's say for Lexington city government, could you potentially gain clients from that presentation?
I haven't so far because a lot of the ones that I have been working with through the one Lexington, they're all kids, high school kids.
Okay.
So no, I haven't so far.
All right.
But you could, like the one from like for city employees, even though it was a volunteer,
Yeah, if they reached out to
lunch,
me later
yeah.
on, it could
Yeah.
be potentially
yeah,
be.
or when the kids grow up and they're
Right.
like, Dale was amazing, and
Yeah.
I need more help. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you might, going forward, do this for more than just one Lexington, might do it for the city in other agencies.
If requested,
Right.
yes, I would. Yeah.
How would, how would that be, who would authorize the payment of that? Or would it vary depending on what agency it was? Is that something that the council would have to vote on, or is
You
that?
know, I'm not really sure about that. I just know I get contacted for my services, and then we kind of go from there. I don't know who on the other ends authorizes anything payment.
But it would never come to you for authorization, is what you
No,
said
no,
before.
no. I would never see none of that. No.
Do you actively promote Foundation 47 to other, I would say, LFUCG officers or employees, just as a matter of course, or is it?
Well, not specifically, but I've had commercials on TV. I do a lot of social media posts. I've had a magazine in Business Lexington. I have an article in Business Lexington. I was on the cover a couple of months ago. So people know of me and they've heard of me and it's out there, but I have not targeted LFCUG, Lexington Fayetteville County Government.
What percentage of your business to date has LFUCG been?
Probably 5%.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? Do you have anything else? I think what makes sense for us now is to go in closed session
Okay.
and talk about things and what we think might be what our reaction is. And then if you don't mind to wait outside and come back.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I understand, and I'm just asking because I'm trying to grow my business, and I'm doing these things. And then, again, I don't have any problem with the things I do in the commission. I do a lot of stuff pro bono, but in an effort to scale and grow my business, I think it will be a great move for me. So that's all I want to say.
Okay, I
Thank you.
understand. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'll now move to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61, 810, 1F, and 1J. Since the discussion of the AO 2023-2 may lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an employee, member, or officer, and contains the deliberation of a quasi-judicial body regarding individual adjudications.
Anybody second?
Oh, sorry. I'll second.
Thank you. So we'll go into closed session.
Yeah, so if you are not currently on the Ethics Commission, you have to leave the room. So, yeah. You can come back in later, but.
Oh, are you Mr. Martinez? Oh, no, okay.
Yes. Oh, hold on.
Carries, it's not.
All right, we are back in open session now. Thank you for your patience. Should I go ahead and entertain a motion, or do you want to?
We'll go ahead and share, I think, and then after we share our position, we'll have a motion to adopt that as the official position of the Ethics Commission. And since I took the best notes, I'm the one who gets to read this back to on the record and
Thank
all
you.
that. So I'd say, Mr. Morgan, first of all, the commission interprets your request for an advisory opinion specifically within the context of what we understand to be financial literacy seminars, educational offerings, and other what we consider counseling in a group session, not
Yes.
as a one-on-one employee or anything like that. So this opinion is limited specifically to those services that you described
Right.
in your request. And so it's the we're going to take a motion here, but after deliberation, I think the conclusion is that there's nothing in the Ethics Act that would prohibit you from engaging in the conduct that you have described.
Thank
I
you.
do want to make sure that you are aware, and we'll follow this with a formal written opinion as well to outline all of this.
Yes.
But according to section, let's see, it is 25.6, 1B, need to make sure that you do not participate to the extent that any sort of contracting process is required
Right,
within the LFUCG.
okay.
You cannot participate in establishing the contract specifications, awarding the contract, or managing the performance of the contract from the LFUCG perspective.
Yes, sir.
You should not actively target LFUCG department heads or others to offer or suggest these services.
Okay.
As such is a potential violation of 25.5, Section 2, in terms of using your status as an employee to obtain certain personal privileges or advantages
Yes, sir.
that may be inappropriate. Obviously, if to the extent that you have any follow-up conversations or discussions with any individual at these seminars who wish to retain your services on an individual basis, yours or your partners or your business, and when I say yours, I mean your company's
Yes, sir.
services, obviously that needs to be completely on personal time, not using any public equipment such as emails or other communication systems in order to carry out that relationship. I think you've said this in your opinion, but should you perform any of these seminars or other activities, needs to be on non-working time, so
Yes,
using
sir.
proper leave or other absence policies or time off such as that. This may not necessarily involve you, but I think I'd caution you to be making sure that further in the performance of these services that all LFUCG rules and existing policies, to the extent that any performance of these types of services needs to be bid or put out to bid, that those are followed obviously by you in response to if that should ever become necessary.
Yes, sir.
And finally, I think the concern in terms of, because this is for money now, is that the fees that you do invoice or charge should continue to be reasonable based upon, similar performance of duties to a non-LFUCG entity that may ask for you to do something similar, because in the opinion of the commission, charging excessive or above
Yes.
market rate or prevailing fees would be inappropriate personal privileges, which
Yes, sir.
potentially runs afoul of the Ethics Act.
Yes, sir.
So with that having been said, I will, I think, actually, you, go ahead.
Entertain a motion to issue an opinion, adopt an opinion, and issue a letter in conformity with what has been described.
So move. So move.
Hearing a motion, anybody second? All right, having been seconded, motion. Oh, yes, the substitute. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. So thank you very much, and we, again, will follow up with a written opinion.
Yes, sir.
And of course, it will govern, but it will be in conformity with what he just described.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for your time and consideration. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I I think we can now move on to the next item on the agenda, which involves a need for us to go back into closed session.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and make the motion to go into closed session, again pursuant to 61.810.1F and 61.810.1J. Since the discussion of the AO 2023-1 may lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an employee, member, or officer and contains the deliberations of a quasi-judicial body regarding individual adjudications.
Thank you. Any second? Hearing a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes. So we'll now go into closed session.
good to go.
All right. We're back in open session. I will move to formally adopt and ratify AO 2023-001 as written. Any second?
I'll second.
Taking a vote, all all in agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No noes. So the motion is adopted. Do you, Evan, want to talk about the next item on the agenda?
So this has to do partly too about an ethics tip line report that's been closed, but and this was a time-sensitive issue that the law department had to determine because there was no time for the ethics commission to do it. But it involves, and I'll just talk about it generally, the nepotism issue of whether or not there can be a contract in which a relative, as is defined in the nepotism section of the Ethics Act, whether or not you could have a relative where the division director or somebody in management is one who it's in it for a division in which the person's relative is the division director or upper management in the division. And so the law department basically, what we did was, due to the time sensitivity, we said that basically you would be if reroute the management of the agreement and if you just basically change the management structure for the purposes of that agreement, so that way the division director is not in line with the management of the contract, by having having the individual whose job it is to manage it report to a different director for the purposes of that contract, move forward that way. But I think this is a pretty novel issue for us. And in that case, it would have been a pretty tangential benefit if there was even one. We just didn't have enough information, unfortunately, because of the time sensitivity. We had a day or two. So so basically, the question is whether or not the Ethics Commission be interested. And obviously, the Ethics Commission has the power to provide advisory opinions on their own behalf. Doesn't necessarily have to be brought by somebody. They can make an advisory opinion about anything if they want. And it could be about hypothetical situations. So the question, and it doesn't necessarily have to be solved today. So we can discuss this further, and you can think on it. But whether or not the Ethics Commission wants to make a advisory opinion for cases in which for contracts in which a division director or somebody in line of management of the contract would be involved in the managing of the contract. Obviously, in that case, they weren't involved in the awarding of the contract. They had nothing to do with the bid. They weren't on the bid committee to award the person. So it was more of just the management of the contract. So if there's not sure whether or not the Ethics Commission wants to make on a hypothetical situation as it pertains to nepotism for division directors, but it could potentially it could come up again. So it might whether or not might make sense for the Ethics Commission to make a determination, so that way guide the law department in the future to make sure that we're doing what the Ethics Commission wants, because it's one of those difficult situations.
My suggestion and request, I think, would be if we could have a written summation of the issue, and then something that, not necessarily with the specifics of that particular situation, but this doesn't appear to be covered under the Act currently. what, do you want to issue something or request an amendment or addition to the Ethics Act, or take no action whatsoever on this, but to have
Yeah,
something?
we can get it written up. I think it could potentially be, well, I think there is the, in the contract section, of the Ethics Act about, not being able to manage the contract, right? And the question is whether or not that means for the Ethics Commission's determination that they can't have the contract at all, or, for instance, or for the Ethics Commission, just like they do for other things, where they say you can do it, but there has to be, in other nepotism sections, for instance, where the Ethics Commission's oftentimes said, just change the management structure, and just change the management structure, so you're not managing the work of a relative, for instance. Whether or not doing something like that in that case would also be appropriate.
Actually, Carrie you came with the same idea I did. I would feel better having this kind of a written executive summary in advance, so that I could at least come to a future meeting having looked at it and determined whether it's something that I think really necessitates what we typically don't do, which is offer an advisory opinion in the absence of a specific requestor. So I'm going to kind of side with Carrie here in terms of I'd defer this till the next meeting, and then with the benefit of a little bit more understanding as opposed to just verbal representations of what exactly the issue was before making that determination.
Yeah, and also that may, I think, help. It may be an issue that we're really concerned about, and maybe we want to suggest that the Ethics Act itself be amended even, or some other thing be done. But I think if you could accomplish that, that would be helpful, and put it on for next time for us to consider. I don't know that we need a motion to do that, but we'll just do that, and then the next item is the approval of prior meeting minutes, and I think we have multiple minutes since our last minute.
There's actually just one. So one of them is the cancellation of the meeting, and then the other one's
Do we need to approve that? The notice of cancellation? I don't think we do. So the minutes from the meeting of May 22, 2023. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So moved.
Anybody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carried. So there are actually no other minutes. And moving on, the next item is the ethics tip line report. Evan, can you go over that?
So there's more this time because of the last meeting was canceled. So there's February, and usually, for the benefit of those who are new to the Ethics Commission, the Ethics Commission is required to receive these ethics tip line reports. Like I always say, it's kind of a misnomer to call them ethics tip line reports, because it's not necessarily only ethics related. You're the Ethics Commission, there's an ethics tip line, so you think all of them have to do with the Ethics Act, but they don't. It could be it's complaints generally about LFUCG employees. So it could be ethics related, but sometimes most times it isn't. Basically it shows, but the ordinance that has this tip line requires that the Ethics Commission get it. So that's why you get it. You got February's, and a law department's not provided with very much information as to any specific complaint. So if anybody's interested in any of them, that would require us to have to look into it, because we're not provided every single complaint, so we don't actually know necessarily information about each of them. And of course, they're confidential. The informant is confidential. There's March. See, there's a lot of HR-related things. So it's there's also May. Did I see April in here? Yeah, sorry, April, May, June, July. And, yeah.
Is there a day by which they need to be closed? Because there's like a tally in one of the columns.
No, I
Does it
think that's for
matter?
information purposes. To show that, I think that the idea is to by putting how many days, it's accountability issue.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any that were for us.
There wasn't any for us. There was one that was shown as closed in July, in the July one, which had to do with the issue about that we discussed about the nepotism, which was handled by the law department, and administrative action was taken to, like I said, to prevent the division director from managing the contract by having a new division director oversee the project manager for that contract. As a last
Any questions about the tip line report?
Just a brief procedural. If somebody were to call the tip line and voice some kind of complaint that would seemingly implicate something in the Ethics Act, what are the steps, or what happens from that point forward?
So in my experience, the Ethics Commission's only been involved in one Ethics Act related issue, and it was a gift issue. So basically, the Ethics Commission would be alerted, and the Ethics Commission would make the determination.
Okay,
about
but
what
there
to
would
do.
be whoever received, like from the ethics tip line, would then provide that, take a report and then provide it to the Ethics Commission for
Yeah.
action? Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, and the last one was the only one that I've been a part of in the last 7 years has been a gift related issue, whether or not somebody received a gift by getting something from the public. And that was handled by the Ethics Commission. They called the person in, and they had a discussion with them in a meeting.
Okay.
So moving on to item 6 on the agenda, I know that or I recall that at our last meeting, we decided not to send out certified reminders at that point for the financial interest statements that were delinquent. I think we have that decision before us again today for what it looks like, luckily, a substantial or somewhat substantial reduction in delinquencies. I would move that we go ahead and send certified mail to the 26 remaining delinquent. We're now in, what is it, August?
So we're 4 months past due at this point in time.
I don't know what in the past, when we've
It's
decided.
due. It's usually due on tax day, because the idea is that it runs the same tax year as the taxes, so it's always for the previous year, just like your taxes. So if you're doing your taxes, you should do it then. So and I don't remember, I do my taxes too early. So so I think it's May. Is that when taxes are due?
April.
April 15th. Sorry.
Good thing you do them early.
Yeah, right. I get mine done in January. Thank you.
It is a number burned into my brain.
Yeah, no,
You W-2 employees.
so so I guess it would be April, May, June, July. Yeah, that would be 4 months. And usually, what usually happens is that last meeting of the year is the meeting where we try to have the orders to appear.
Yeah, so usually we send out a certified letter to them now in August, and then Abby and I kind of like poke and prod to see like if they get the certified letters, and like by October we haven't heard from them, then we start kind of, okay, we're gonna contact you like through email, we're gonna contact you through your phone, like, and then once we get to October, or no, sorry, November, that's when, I think before that meeting, we send out orders to appear.
Yeah, I think that's right, it's to appear at the November meeting, so I think it might make sense for the motion to be, to send out certified letters, and if you don't get the if you don't get the financial interest statement by X date, send the order of appear to them for the November meeting.
Can they fill out the form online, or do they have to send in a hard copy?
They have to, they require the wet copy, right?
Well, so,
And it has to be a,
it just has to be notarized, so,
Oh, okay.
that's
yeah.
the difficulty.
But we have to have the wet notary copy, you can't just, mail it into us, like a scan or anything.
But in case anybody is watching or listening, you can, who needs to file a financial interest statement, the council clerk's office can notarize. So
Yes.
so you can just fill it out, walk it in, and they can help you with that.
Yes.
Then we should probably, let's make the next round of delinquency notifications with a 60-day deadline to reply, so that gives them notice about 30 days out from the November Ethics Commission meeting. And if the financial interest statement is not received by 60 days from today's date, then, or actually 60 days from the days that the letters are issued,
Probably next week.
next week, yes.
Yeah.
So 60 days from the date, the letter of issuance, then they will receive an order to appear at the next Ethics Commission, which, said order can obviously be purged by the compliance with the filing your financial interest statement.
Yeah.
So can I get a motion in conformity with that to direct the clerk to do that? What you
So
just
moved.
described? Okay, any second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 No,
Do we
none
need,
opposed?
Evan, do we need a new letter that'll say like, hey, you have 60 days to turn this in? Okay, we'll talk.
All right, and I think that
There's-
concludes all the business.
Sorry, there's one more thing that we didn't end up making on the agenda. This is just for thinking about for the future meeting, because this was kind of late that realized that didn't make it on the agenda. But the one of the members, so basically the Ethics Commission is made up of mostly from nominations from organizations. The Professional Women's Forum, you got Better Business Bureau, those organizations. One of them, the Citizens for Ethical Government, is defunct now. There is no Citizens for Ethical Government.
The organization.
Sorry, the organization.
Yes.
Sorry, the organization. There is no organization called the Citizens for Ethical Government, from what we can tell. They haven't been responding. So, the question is for the group is it might make sense for the Ethics Commission to potentially recommend for the administration to amend that ordinance, the Ethics Act, to change that organization to another organization. And I think oftentimes the council appreciates the opinion of the Ethics Commission. So if there's, when you're thinking about, I imagine a lot of you are in a lot of different organizations. If there's any organizations in Lexington that would have Fayette County residents, that would be something akin to the Citizens for Ethical Government, some citizen group, some civics group, something like that. That could potentially be a good switch out to a different organization that might actually be still in existence and still operating.
So what I would suggest or like is to put that as an item on the next agenda and let AJ as well weigh in
Yeah.
and talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. This I was just mentioning it as thinking about it because I wasn't, I tried to do some thinking myself, and I'm not familiar with too many of these kind of
Right.
ethics,
right.
but maybe if everybody puts their heads together, there might be something that comes from based on your organization, the groups that your interests are in the community and that you're involved in, and we'll put it on the agenda for the next one to see if anybody has any ideas to help to recommend to the administration, because I think they'd appreciate that.
All right, and thank you. I think that concludes business for this evening. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Have a good evening. Thanks a lot.